What's going on, guys? Welcome to your second web development tutorial, and what we're going to learn about in this tutorial is the HTML doc type, HTML brackets, the body bracket, as well as different attributes that you can use within HTML, like our headers and a paragraph. What's going on, guys? Welcome to your second web development tutorial. So obviously our website is looking pretty baller right now, but it's not exactly like all those other websites you see. And we'll get into developing a very nice looking website once we learn CSS, which will allow us to stylize our HTML elements. So we need a way to categorize different elements on our screen. For example, right now we just have a text and there's no way to define what this text is. So later when we want to stylize this, for example, we want to have this be a blue color, maybe a font of like 24 or something like that, there's no way to reference this text here. So that's where the HTML elements come in. And what HTML stands for is Hypertext Markup Language. So it's just a way for us to organize what we see on the screen and a way for us to relate to that information through CSS and JavaScript and all that stuff. So what we're going to learn first is about the doc type. Now, you might have heard about HTML5 coming out, but there's plenty of other doc types, starting with like HTML, which is basically HTML1, but there's also 2.0, 3.2, 4.01. There's a lot of different types of HTML that we can display on our screen, and we want to do HTML5. And how you define that and tell our browser that we are doing HTML5 so it's able to interpret all of the context that we put into this page, we want to say that we're working with HTML5. Sorry, I got a text message, kind of lost focus for that, didn't make sense. We do that with a less than sign, an exclamation point, or exclamation mark, and then we say doc type, all capital, and then we say what version of HTML we're going to be running. And to define it as HTML5, all we have to say is just HTML here. We could say, you know, HTML 2.0 and have a different doc type for older browsers, but no one else uses those old browsers anymore. So you're safe 99% of the time using HTML5, which is what we're going to do. So that's what the doc type does. So you'll see this anytime you go to a website and right click and just say inspect, and you can see kind of the markup of that web page. So as you can see here, there's the HTML element, and up here you can see the doc type of HTML5. So that's just defining for a browser what kind of HTML we're working with. So that's the first thing that we have. The next thing that we want to do is set up our HTML elements. And all of our HTML commands are going to have to be put, well, not commands I should say, but all of our HTML elements we want within an opening and closing HTML tag or bracket here. And so we do that by having an opening HTML bracket and a closing HTML bracket. Sorry, I keep getting text messages. It's all the ladies, you know. Anytime you're a web developer, all the ladies just come flocking, you know. So anyways, if we got our HTML elements, and now we could do something like Travis, just like we did previously. And I'm going to hit save, go back to our browser, and go to localhost index.html, refresh the page, looks pretty much the exact same. So let's say we want to mix it up a little bit and add some built-in styling that HTML has for you. A lot of times you'll have a header of some sort on your page, and there's different header sizes, and you do a header with H1 and then a closing bracket of H1 as well. So anything within this H1 header tag will have the built-in stylizing that HTML has, and usually you only want one H1 on your page and preferably one H2 as well. Once you get into H3 or 4 or something like that, it doesn't mean as much. This comes down to SEO. When Google robots come in, they check the page, they scrape the data, and they look for, you know, the H1 tag. What's the header of this article? And it'll put that into its search algorithm, and it'll have a higher precedence of what the page is about. That's a little bit about SEO. That'll probably be a whole nother course because it's insane, all the information that you can learn to optimize your website. But let's just check this out now after we save again. And as you can see, we have two different headers. One's H1 header, one is H2 header, as you can see. And as it goes up to like H7, I think. As it goes up, obviously the text gets smaller, but the built-in functionality is that it's kind of a large text, and throw my phone over there. Large text and bold, and it's out there. So that's kind of your header text, H1, H2, and we also have paragraph text. So again, we just it's the same type of markup on pretty much all these HTML tags. It's going to be whatever your attribute is, and then a / closing your attribute. Whatever is within there is part of that element. So we can just say this is my paragraph. I keep hitting Command S and I keep forgetting that it's Control S on Windows. So let's just hit save, go to our page again, and bam, it's looking pretty sexy right now. We got a pretty baller page going on. I bet a lot of people are going to check our site and be like, whoa, I got to tweet about this because it's awesome. There's one other attribute that we want to include within our standard page of a website, and that's going to be the body tag. We're going to have everything that's important to our page within the body itself. Same markup here, just a body tag, and then we're just going to move all of this important information into the body tag. And another standard is to tab in every time you're within a different element, so it's nice and easy to see where your opening and closing tags are when you're working with an HTML page. So it's nice to do that, and it's kind of the default, so you want to get into that habit. Now what the body page is, this won't change anything if we go back to our website, but what the body page, what am I saying? The body page is the main content of our page. There's also going to be a footer tag eventually, and maybe a header tag where we can load up our CSS files, load up all the resources we want within the header, and then also within the footer. Most websites have a footer where you can go to their social media sites and all that stuff. We'll get into that later. These are the main attributes I want to focus on for this tutorial. It's pretty easy. Obviously, we haven't done something super complex yet, but you start to understand how to organize things, and we can't quite see that yet. That will become quite apparent when we start working with the CSS and getting things organized in a structure that's very easy to relate to the actual element or the text itself within the structure that we set up here. This stuff will become second nature to you once you actually start developing your websites. So don't worry too much about remembering all these elements that we're going to learn within this HTML series. We're going to solidify what we have learned when we actually develop our real life website using a coding framework. Again, like CodeIgniter or Zend or whatever. We'll develop a real website, and we'll be using a lot of this stuff that I'm showing you here. We'll also create kind of a small page throughout this HTML section of our whole course. But again, this is just HTML. There's opening and closing tags to everything. It's a way to keep things organized. And you have a body that has the main content. You also have a header tag, which is kind of important for SEO. And then, a paragraph tag. And also our doc type. It's pretty safe to just use HTML as your doc type for everything. As of now, I'm sure HTML will upgrade in the future. You might want to use that as well. Hope you guys are having a great day. If you really enjoy these tutorials, please share them with your friends. There's no better way for us to gain traction, get more followers, more subscribers, more potential ad revenue, and sponsors for all that matter. So guys, thanks again. Please continue on with the series. I know right now it's kind of bland and you're like, well, I could have figured that out probably back when I was modifying my MySpace page and I had to do some H1, H2 tags. But we have to start here for everyone, and it'll progressively get faster. We're going to progressively learn a lot more stuff and cool tactics. So again guys, thanks, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.